talking about doing this video for quite some time. I've asked you your opinions if you wanted to see or learn anything about this time in my life, and a lot of you who watch have said yes. Maybe not a lot, but a few of you have said yes. And I want this video to be informational for anybody who has family members going through this, who has gone through it themselves, who is just curious and wants to know about stuff. But I just feel like the more others can learn from your experience, the better educated and open-minded they'll be about everything else that they might experience down the road. So, with that being said, this video is about my cancer story and my survival of it. And so will be 30 next Tuesday, June 3rd. But when I was 17, the summer before my senior year, I started getting pain. Let me rephrase that. January 1st of 2001, I started getting pain in my right arm, and it was internal, like right in here in the crease. And it was inconsistent pain. It would be there for a week, it'd go away for a week, it'd be there for 2 weeks, go away for a while. So with this pain, it just kind of gradually got worse. So what I did was, my dad's in the x-ray business. He's actually an x-ray tech, has been for years, and my mom was working at an elementary school during that time. I was telling my parents about it. My dad was like, you know, and my mom were like, okay, well, we need to get it checked out. So I went to our family doctor. They kind of maneuvered it, played with it, didn't really find any reason to be concerned. You know, from what I explained, they said, oh, I bet it's tennis elbow, or, you know, tendonitis or something like that. And I said, well, I don't play any sports. I don't do anything super repetitive. I just kind of live, you know. And so they're like, well, let's put you in physical therapy for a while. Mind you, all the things that I remember are kind of, I have vivid pictures in my head, but I don't know how realistic they are because of the state that I was in, especially as we get closer to diagnosis. I have really visual memories, but I don't know if they're right or not because of my being in panic mode, essentially. But so I have this vision of being told to go to physical therapy. So I would do that for a little while. I'd have to go back because the pain kept getting worse. It was consistent some more. So that all started January 1st of 2001. I'd been with my parents the night before, had done nothing exciting, nothing crazy, you know. But in May, they finally took x-rays. I went to a bone doctor, and they took x-rays, didn't see anything, but they're going, you know, I don't know what it is. They maneuvered my arm too, did everything, and we're going, I don't know, basically, you know, it's got to be tennis elbow or something. So we just kind of went with that. I think I did more physical therapy, I'm not really sure, but basically I just kind of kept living. So that school year, my junior year ended, and then that summer kind of rolled around, and the pain just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And of course, before your senior year in high school, you're spending a lot of time with your girlfriends or your friends, and I was doing that. We'd be out on the lake. My girlfriend had a boat, so we would be out on the boat, and I was learning how to wakeboard and, you know, doing a lot of swimming and just hanging out with lots of friends all summer. And we'd have sleepovers and stuff too, and I remember just like, it was uncomfortable to stay at people's houses because I was having to now sleep with like ice packs or heating wraps at night. And I remember, my friends will tell you now, if you ask some of them, oh, that pee sack, you were just playing with it all night long, and it was so irritating. And obviously because we didn't, you know, I was trying to get comfortable, but we didn't know what was going on. And I remember kidding with my girlfriends. We were out on the boat one day, and we're just like, what if it were cancer or something? And we're just like, that's not funny. That's not funny. Let's not kid about that. You know, so we kind of brush it off and move along. And then my senior year rolled around. The pain was really getting bad. It got to a point, I don't know that I'm a total sissy when it comes to pain, but I know that there are people who can tolerate it a lot better than I. But I was getting to the point where it was really, really hard for me to write, even. And like it was so painful to do anything, and I could not sleep anymore. I was really in a lot of pain. It was getting really, really unbearable. And you could see my arm as the summer was progressing, as the year progressed. you could see if I did this with my arm, this part of my arm started to go like this and would raise up. So it'd go like that. But it wasn't so dramatic that you're like, what's up with her arm, you know? But we knew there was something wrong because the pain just got worse and worse and worse, and nobody could find anything, but it was definitely not right. I knew that. You know your own body, you know what feels normal, what doesn't. And when it got so excruciating to the point where I was up every night, not sleeping, during the day I could maneuver things with ice packs, and I could keep myself busy and distracted and all of that, so I would definitely notice the pain, but I could manage it, so to speak. But when you're at night trying to sleep, you're trying to get in that relaxed sleep mode, and even when you have a simple cold at night, it's so much worse at night than compared to the day, because you're trying to settle down and all of that. And I got to a point where at night, the only relief that I would get would be to put my arm under scalding hot water. The hottest I could get it is what would really give me some relief from the pain that I had. And I probably was giving myself some burns, if you will, from hot water, but I could not bear the pain unless I had done that at night. And you know, I just remember being at the sink, I would just cry because it hurt so bad. And I would get to a point where I'd fall asleep because I finally got relief, that I would fall asleep with scalding hot water on my arm. And my dad, who's an x-ray tech, like I said, he would hear me at night and he'd get up going, you know, this just isn't right. Something is up. Something is up. And so he is a big proponent of, you are in control of your medical care and all of that kind of stuff. So what he did was, because he's in the medical field too, he figured out some names and said, we're getting an appointment with this doctor, and we're going to get something figured out. This is going to change. And I got into the appointment finally, and you know, they took x-ray, like he was maneuvering my arm like every other doctor. Then they took x-rays, and the memory I have of that day is seeing my x-rays on the wall, and I'll show you a picture of what I saw. I'll show you an actual x-ray. Seeing my x-rays on the wall, and I kind of remember the doctor to my left a little bit behind me, and my dad kind of behind me on the right. And when those pictures went up, it was not like every other experience before. It was just kind of dead silence. That's what I remember. I don't know if that's right, but I just remember dead silence. And I was like, okay, what are we looking at? You know? And then the next thing, I don't know who said what, but it was something to the effect of, okay, the next step is we're going to get this figured out. We are going to have MRIs, we're going to have CT scans, we're going to do blood work, whatever. You know, we're going to get this figured out. Everything's going to be okay. And I'm just like, okay, great. So they're going to actually do something else to figure out why it hurt so bad. So then I started, it was like all of a sudden appointment after appointment, it felt like, and both of my parents started coming to the appointments, and it just became much more serious very quick. And you know, with my dad being an x-ray tech and the doctor being there, when they saw the x-rays, which I'll show you, I'll just show you right now. Hopefully you guys can see it too. Well, I'll tell you first. But when they saw the x-rays, I think they knew exactly what they were looking at. But they couldn't diagnose me or tell me because they needed, you know, solid answers. My dad couldn't diagnose me because he's an x-ray tech and doctors are supposed to do that. The doctor was standing there knowing what he's looking at, but he's going, yeah, we need to make sure that what I'm seeing is really real. So that's why all these other appointments started happening. But this is basically the x-ray that they saw. Hopefully you guys can see it. I'm going to try. I'm trying to cover my info. If you can see it, this right here is my humerus, and this right here is my radial bone. So humerus being your upper, radial being down here. If you can see this whole section right here, it's kind of like blotchy and squiggly, liney. This is where all the cancer was, in here. It's hard to see, I hope you guys can see that, but it went all the way basically to the end of my humerus. So when they saw that, they kind of knew what was up. And I remember one appointment in particular that we had gone to, and both my parents were there, and they were very, very comforting, if you will, like, okay honey, we're going to get things figured out, everything's going to be fine, don't you worry, everything's going to be fine. And at that point I was going, you guys know something I don't. And I think you should tell me, basically. You know, I was going, what are you not telling me? And so I remember after that appointment, we were on our way home, and I was sitting in the back seat, and my parents were in the front, and I just was going, you know something that I don't. You have to tell me. You know, if it's involving me, you have to tell me. And this isn't verbatim, mind you. This is just the memories that I have. And I don't know who said it, but somebody said, well, honey, we think it might be bone cancer. And of course, when you're told you have bone cancer, your mind shuts down. Like, all you can think about is cancer and all the things you knew before. And what I knew before was, I'm going to lose my hair, I'm going to get really, really sick, I'm going to vomit all the time, and I might die. So that's basically what I knew. I didn't know a whole lot of anything else. And so I was just mortified. I was mortified. And so in terms of that night, kind of a long story short, you know, I cried all the way home. We got home, had a family meeting with my sister, basically sat on the floor in a ball together, bawling because we didn't know what was going to happen. I'm kind of getting emotional thinking about it. Sorry. So on an everyday basis, I can deal with talking about this story, but when I think about, when I think about all the details, it brings up the same emotions that I felt back then, and so they just kind of come pouring out of me. So if I cry half this video, you'll know why. I will be fine though. I'll be fine. So anyway, so long story short, back to that night in a family unit meeting. Everybody was in kind of terror mode. I'd never seen my father cry until that day, I don't think. Not really. I mean, his dad had died and I'd seen it at that point, but when you never see somebody cry and then they start crying, you're like, this is major. Something's really seriously wrong, you know? So I just remember feeling like, this is a really big deal. My mom called my girlfriend that night who was at work, my very best girlfriend, Tia, who you've seen in some videos. She, said, you need to come over, because Tia was just as much of the family as my sister and parents were. And so she came over after work, and my parents told her what was going on, and I just remember crying, and hugging her, and crying, and hugging my family, and blah, 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 blah. And then from there, I don't really remember anything until the day until the day that I had to go have biopsies done, and if in fact the biopsies said yes, it's cancer, that they were going to put stuff in. I remember the doctor's appointments that I had, because they were where we live. We did our research about which doctors were going to be best, because the type of cancer that I had was actually juvenile cancer. So kids generally got this kind of cancer, and I was 17 when we found it. And so we were doing our research, and we found one at a doctor that was 3 hours away, a doctor's office and hospital that could take care of the oncology part of things. And then we found one that was 7+ hours away. And in both areas, phenomenal doctors. We had been told there were great surgeons, and I had family in both areas. So basically, from learning the blood tests and the scans and all this, the type of cancer we thought it was going to be, they basically said, what's going to happen is your chemo is going to last about 10 months to a year. And you're going to have to do chemo. You probably won't have to do radiation. You're definitely going to have surgery. And so we kind of interviewed the doctors and the surgeons at both places. And we learned that the chemo was going to be pretty intense. So to kind of give you brief snippets, there was a section where it was 3 days continuous, 72 hours. I get plugged in, I do 72 hours of chemo, and then I get unplugged. I would go home for a week and a half, or I would be off for a week and a half, and then I would start a week treatment. So 10 hours each day for 5 days in a row. So knowing that, I was going to do 3 days on, week and a half off, a week on, a week off, 3 days on, a week and a half off, and that was going to last for 10 months. We were trying to decide where to go. The 7-hour away doctor, they were amazing. Surgeon was amazing. Oncologist was amazing. But, you know, being 7 hours away was hard to do, trying to go to school for my senior year, trying to live, trying to be as normal as possible, and be with my friends and family. The 3-hour away was much more feasible. Again, great doctors in terms of oncology. But when we did the interview with the surgeon, my parents have this vivid memory of how it went. And mind you, my dad is a big proponent of, you're in control of your care, so that means you say, I want copies of this, I want copies of this, I want to know what's going to happen. You know, you're going to inform me. I'm not just going to let you make all the decisions and me be dumb on this end of things and then just move on. So when my dad asked the surgeon, so how are you going to do this surgery? The surgeon told my parents, that's for me to know and for you not to worry about. And right there my parents went, nope, you're not doing her surgery. So, which I'm thankful for, because what happened was the surgeon that I had in this a long area away was amazing. He's still amazing. The kind of doctor that when I go and see him, he gives me a kiss on the cheek, a hug, and then he's down to business, you know. So what I did was I did chemotherapy in a town which is a few hours from where I live. And then I did my surgery much farther north. And when I went in for my biopsy, before I actually started chemo and all of that, I learned, you know, they said basically, if we're going to go in, we're going to test your bone marrow, we're going to test your arm. If it is cancer, we're going to put in a growth shunt catheter. And what that is, it's actually basically tubing that goes in your chest, and you can't see it very well. I'll try and get close. I have just a little scar right there. And what it does is this tubing that went in right there, went up, basically up here, through my arteries, then down into my heart, and the ends of the tubing in the heart go like this. So it's a tube that has two different, it went like this. So it's tubing that has two different tubes attached. And what it does is it allows for two different drugs or liquids to be administered at the same time, but that way they don't mix. Because if the tubes were just like this, and some of those drugs had mixed, it would have caused major health problems. So they do just enough that they can administer two things at a time and not have bad interactions among them. So it would go in there, and then the tubing on the outside would come out, and it was long. It actually went down to my belly button, but like maybe rib cage, the tubes would split. And it would have two caps on the end. And those caps you would change, those caps you would hook into the IVs that they would administer the drugs in. So those tubes ended at my stomach basically, went all the way down into my heart. So they said, if you wake up with that, you're going to know that we're going to have to do chemotherapy. And I woke up, and of course, you know, you're drugged, but you're knowing what's going on. So I did this look thing, and then I was kind of like, well, I've got cancer, you know, get to do chemo, but then you're in your drug world, so I was kind of out. And I remember waking up to having the nurse teach my mom how to clean it, because you had to do some cleaning around the site. You had to clean the tubes, you had to flush the tubes, all of that, to make sure you didn't get any infections. So, over the next, it was supposed to be 10 months, I did it 8, because I volunteered to do an accelerated version. Again, anything you can learn from my experience, learn it. And so I said, basically any study they asked me to be a part of, accelerated chemo, hook me up. 1, because it's quicker. 2, because maybe they can learn something that will help the next person who's sick. So I said, yeah, set me up for this trial, get me going faster, and let's do it. So over the next 8 months, so that was in October I actually got diagnosed. I started chemo November 11th of 2001. I finished chemo the end of June in 2002. So over that time period, I would go for 3 days, 72 hours of chemo. I'd come home for a week. I would go back, or excuse me, a week and a half later. I would do 5 days in the hospital. I'd come home for a week. I'd go back, I'd do 3 days, and I did that chemo basically every other week for 8 months. Except for that, when your white blood counts get low, you can't do chemo because your white blood counts are what fight off everything, and my white blood counts would get so low I'd have to do transfusions, blood transfusions, not just my white blood counts but my platelets and all of that. So I'd have to do blood transfusions. I had to give myself shots towards the end every day, or have family or whoever give me shots to try and up my white blood count cells, white blood cell counts. I ended up getting infections in my catheter. Sometimes you just can't help it when your blood counts are so low. It's just natural for things to move around, and so I'd get infections. I ended up in the ER quite a few times. I'd have to be flushed with fluid quite a few times. I had horrible side effects that I'm not going to go into detail now. If you really want to know, I will tell you, and I will be completely honest, but some of it is very graphic. So I want you to know that. But, anything from severe mouth sores, open mouth wounds to, pooping issues and stuff like that. So, like I said, some of them are very graphic. If you want to know, I can do a video based on that, but I'm going to avoid it right now. But I can tell you that there were very ugly moments. I ended up having to have my surgery. Sorry, there's kids behind me. I ended up having to have my surgery February of 2002, beginning of February 6th, I think. And they went in and they took basically this whole section of my bone out. They put a cadaver bone, which is a dead person's bone, basically in, and they put 11 screws. And I'll show you what that looks like now. Hopefully. Okay. Can you guys see that? So this is facing the bar. So, and you can see right here is where the bone was cut out and the cadaver bone put in. You can see it right here too, where this blank screw is. So all of this bone right here into the joint is all a dead person's bone. And this all here is my bone. What they did was they put that plate down and they put 11 different screws in to hold the one, because this bone is dead. There's no blood, no nothing flowing through it. And so no bone marrow, none of that. So it's really fragile. So they put all these screws in to maintain its strength. These here were just to maintain the bar, basically, with my bone. And you can see again where the intersection is. I had to have surgery almost 2 years later and they took part of my hip bone and had to plug it in because my body was eating the dead bone away, going, this is a foreign object, we need to put something, or we need to get it out. So they ended up putting part of my hip bone in here. But to date, I still have this bar and I still have all of those screws. So you'll see, and I'll show you my scar actually. It goes all the way back up here. My arms are kind of beat up right now, but the scar goes all the way down and comes around my elbow, in fact. And this scar has been cut open twice, like I said, because they had to put part of my hip bone in there, so it's thicker in one part. But that's what they did. They told me when I had surgery I was probably going to have surgery again from anywhere from 7 to 15 years, depending on how long the bones last, all of that. I am at year 12. Next month I will have finished chemo 12 years ago. That's exciting. But so far I'm doing really good, have had no problems with it. The only thing you'll notice is I don't have extension. So that's as far as I can extend it. A lot of that is my doing, because I didn't continue my physical therapy at home like I should have, could have. The other part is that my arm was in a sling for so long. When you do things, it's not very often your arm is straight. And so, because my arm was up so long, the tendons on the inside of my arm shrunk up. And it's hard to get them to stretch back out and stay that way unless your arm is straightened out. like I said, when you're living, you write, you brush your teeth, you tie your shoes, you pull your pants up, a lot of your arm is staying bent. So for me, it's a combination of, I could have done more at home, but it's just kind of the way it is. But in terms of my side effects, I did lose my hair. That meant every hair on my body. I didn't shave my armpits, I didn't shave my legs, I couldn't wear mascara, I didn't have eyebrows, I didn't have any hair on my head. But all of that didn't really start, like I didn't start losing my eyebrows and eyelashes until I had surgery because my body was under more physical stress. But I did in fact start losing my hair. And you know, for the girls who ever put your hair up, you know if you put your hair up or you've had it for a while or it's uptight, when you take it down your hair follicles kind of ache. You know, it just feels like, you're like, it's like that weird hurt but feels good to get your hair down. That's exactly what it felt like when I lost all of my hair. Same thing when I did with Peanut. You know, when you get pregnant, your hair stops falling out like it does every day, and then after baby's born, you start losing some of it again, and you can probably see I have like little baby hairs growing back in now. But it was the same thing. It felt the same way. So I will show you a before and after picture of what I look like. This picture was my senior year pictures. So this was 3 months before I got diagnosed, and I had a perm in my hair. It was long and thick, very thick, heavy hair, and I had a perm, but I'll show you what I look like. So there's a picture of me. Like I said, that was 3 months before I got diagnosed. By the end of chemo, this is what I looked like. So, as you can see, you know, I had no eyebrows, I had no eyelashes, I had no hair, and I felt as horrible as I looked. I looked really sick and I felt really sick by then. Chemo it's a horrible, horrible, wonderful thing. If I had not done chemotherapy, I would not be alive right now. Simple as that. If I had not done chemotherapy, I would not have my daughter. This is where I'm going to get emotional again. I wouldn't have my honey in my life. I wouldn't have my family. I wouldn't be here. So, as horrible as it was, and it was really bad sometimes, as horrible as I felt, the fact that I basically had to miss my senior year in school and lose all my hair and feel like SHIT all the time, you know, that is nothing in the, sorry, that is nothing in comparison to what I've been given from it. I have been extremely, extremely blessed. I'm trying not to cry. And you know, I talk about in my videos what to be grateful for. That's exactly why. I've been given a second chance in life, and I have to live it to the fullest. Even if things are going to be crappy on days and they're going to be great on others, I have to be sure that I'm thankful for what I have been given. And sometimes I tend to forget that, and that's why I do the gratefuls. That's why I look for things to be good. That's why I try to think optimistically about everything, because I have been in a position where I almost lost everything. And so the little trivial things that I deal with on a daily basis that piss me off or frustrate me or, you know, whatever, all I have to do is go back to that, you know, just look at that picture and go, oh yeah, this is so minute in comparison to that. You know, so that's why I do everything. That's why I am the way I am. I think having experienced that has changed who I am, who I've become. And as horrible as it was, I am so thankful for it. Okay, I'm good now. So, I think I'm just going to leave it at that right now. I don't know what else to talk about without getting really, really graphic. For those of you who want to know anything, if I can be a support for you because your family's going through it, if I can be a support for you because you're going through it, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to ask questions. I will be 100% honest with you. I may do it more privately than video, depending on what you want to know or what I'm going to tell you, but please feel free to ask. Like I said, whatever you guys can learn from my experience, maybe that will change your outcome and your outlook on what other people are going through. So, I'm done. So again, if you guys have any questions, please comment. Sorry I got all teary on you a bunch, but I hope you learned something. I hope it helped you understand me a little bit better. And I know it's kind of a long video, and I'm sorry for that. But thanks for watching, you guys. I appreciate you putting up with this whole video, and I hope I can do something good for somebody by putting it out there. So, see you guys in the next vlog, and take care until then. Bye.